Hi, this is Sarah Mikesell with the Pig Site, and today we're here with Dr. Nick Lauterbach. He is a veterinarian and director of technical veterinary services at Pharmgate Animal Health. Thanks for being with us today, Nick.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Very good. And today, Nick and I are at World Pork Expo in Des Moines, Iowa. And we got a lot to cover, Nick, so I'm going to dive right into our questions here. PRRS virus continues to challenge producers despite decades of work. What has changed most in how producers and veterinarians need to think about PRRS virus risk today?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's one that we get asked a lot. Our team at Pharmgate gets asked a lot now because something has changed with this PRRS virus. I would say the two things that seem to me from both my experience with Pharmgate as well as my experience practicing as a veterinarian before my time at Pharmgate is it seems that the viruses that we're dealing with today are more virulent. They cause more severe disease, meaning that they can be more detrimental to the pigs when they get into our barns. And the second thing I've really noticed is it used to be that there was a seasonality component to this virus where it was prevalent in the colder winter months, and now we come to shows like the World Pork Expo in June, and we're still hearing of farms that are breaking with PRRS. And so that's abnormal as to where this virus was several years ago. And so what that really emphasizes to us is with it being more severe, it causing a more severe disease in the pigs, and the seasonality eroding, it means that we have to really be on top of biosecurity, making sure we keep this disease out of our pigs all year round. There really is not a chance to, quote unquote, catch our breath.
Right.
We have to make sure that we are doing our processes and our procedures correctly every day, that our people caring for our pigs, the people that we work with for caring for our pigs, understand those biosecurity processes, they're doing them correctly, and that we're doing everything we can to keep that disease out of our pigs. Because ultimately, that's the best way to manage this disease, right? We work with a lot of producers, a lot of veterinarians on how to manage PRRS once it's into the pigs. The best way to make sure that you don't have to feel the effects of PRRS is to keep it out of your barns.
Very good. What factors should a producer and veterinarian evaluate before updating a PRRS protocol?
This is not something that you should take lightly. It's a big thing, and I think this is where having a really robust health team, a veterinarian that you work with and can help you understand what is the geography, where is the density, what is the outside pressures onto your barn in terms of, are there certain strains that are in my area? If I'm trying to decide between vaccinating or not, what is the regional density of PRRS challenges, right? A producer in the Eastern Corn Belt may think about PRRS vaccination differently than a producer here in Iowa. And so I think all of those are really important to think about and factors to consider. The other thing I would always ask myself is, what is my goal, right? And that's a question to work through with your health team, with your veterinarian as you're considering vaccinating or you're considering a change to a vaccination is, what is my goal in vaccinating these pigs for PRRS? We know that PRRS vaccine can have a positive impact in terms of reducing the clinical sign and reducing the clinical incidence of PRRS, but it's still something that, anytime you talk about changing vaccine programs, it should be done with a lot of thought and planning ahead of time.
Right. Because it really depends on what your PRRS status is too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to depend on your PRRS status, the system, what your goal of vaccination is. And again, that's where our team at Pharmgate can really be a resource for you, because we are out in the industry. We work with a lot of different producers, so a lot of different systems that have a lot of different goals. We work with sow farms, we work with wean to finish sites, nursery finishing sites, and it's amazing. We're all trying to raise pigs, but we all do have different ways in doing that, right? And so I think, again, as I think back to my days practicing before I had joined Pharmgate, vaccine changes was never something that I took lightly. It's a big decision. It's a big commitment to your system, and it's not something that we would ever suggest you do without some consultation with either your technical services team, your health team, or your veterinarian that you work with.
Right. Because you could have multiple farms with different status, right? So you may have different protocols for different barns, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other piece of it that we would be remiss not to talk about, given our industry, is labor, right? Well, obviously, we're talking about specifically with PRRS vaccinations. There's a labor piece of this where the PRRS vaccinations on the market today are injectable vaccines, and so as you consider, when am I going to give this vaccine? How does it fit into my portfolio? Am I going to give this vaccine at the sow farm? If that's the case, I'm probably going to just use the same vaccine that I'm using in my sows, right? There would be a potential risk there of introducing a new vaccine into your wean pigs than you would have on your sows. Am I going to give it in wean to finish? And if so, do I have the labor, and what does that labor structure look like to get that vaccine done correctly? And again, am I going to have somebody come in to give that vaccine? And if so, I better make sure that person or that team of people understand my biosecurity processes, because that's now another variable that I've introduced into my raising pigs, that anytime we have people coming onto a farm, it's the potential to introduce a new virus. And so by doing something what we think is best for the pigs and vaccinating them, we've actually introduced a new variable that potentially increases our risk of breaking our farm with PRRS, right? So it's not as easy as I'm going to switch from vaccine A to vaccine B, or I'm going to introduce vaccine A after not vaccinating. There should be always a lot of planning and thought process, and ultimately it's risk analysis, right, that goes into our swine producers today are incredibly good at risk analysis. And so really ultimately that's what it comes back to is what is my risk analysis for vaccinating with A or B, or vaccinating versus not vaccinating at all.
Very good. Vaccination timing and full dose administration come up repeatedly in PRRS virus conversations. Why do those details matter, and what can go wrong when vaccination happens too late or inconsistently?
Yeah, these are really good nuanced conversations, right?
It's tricky.
It is, yeah, it's very tricky, and there's again, it goes into an analysis of what's important to your system. From our standpoint at Pharmgate Animal Health, what we see is there's a value in vaccinating. If you're going to vaccinate with PRRS, there's value in giving a full dose of that vaccine to those pigs. What we see, and those vaccines, our PRRS Guard label is labeled as such that it's a full dose of PRRS vaccine we know is protective for that pig in the face of a challenge. The timing piece is interesting, right? Because we just talked about labor. There's a piece of labor that goes into that. Okay, when can I get this vaccine into those pigs? But there's also, without getting too much into the weeds on the immunology side of things, there is also a timing piece of that where can I get that vaccine early enough? Because ultimately what you're trying to do with the vaccine is that be the pig's first experience with PRRS. That pig's immune system, that's the first exposure to PRRS, so that if it were to be exposed, or when we're talking about pigs in Iowa, more likely when it is exposed to PRRS, that second time that pig's immune response is quicker and more robust than the first time when it saw modified live. There's an element of that immune system where that pig has to see that vaccine, it has to then establish an immune response and then clear that virus in order for that response to be more robust and quicker, where if that window is too short, you lose some of the value of giving that vaccine. So timing is a huge piece of it. And again, a lot of that is going to depend on the region you're raising your pigs, what the likelihood, that risk analysis of if I'm placing pigs in this barn, when is the most likely time that they're going to see this virus, and how do I maximize my vaccination from that timing standpoint? And then on the 1 dose and 2 dose, or the 1 dose or the full dose versus partial dose, I should say, our team at Pharmgate would always recommend a full dose. That's the science we see. That's the work that we've done, is that we see value in giving that full dose. If you wanted to have those additional conversations, that's a conversation, again, that's where having a good health team, a good veterinarian can be really incremental in you as a producer being successful. Because again, everything we're talking about here, do I vaccinate, do I not? What is that vaccination timing? What product do I use? These are all extremely nuanced conversations that shouldn't be made in a vacuum. They should be made with a lot of help, and have conversations and sit down and say, what is my risk analysis for these pigs that I'm trying to raise?
Very good. Excellent. What practical biosecurity steps matter most, especially in nursery and finishing systems where disease pressure increase quickly?
The The biggest piece of advice I like to give people when it comes to biosecurity is keep it simple, right? The most effective biosecurity protocols are the ones that we're going to do every day. Biosecurity is it is inherently, it adds time, it adds complexity to the day-to-day tasks that we are asking ourselves or the people that care for our pigs to do, right? There's nothing efficient about the biosecurity process, about showering in, showering out, about changing boots and changing clothes and things like that, about how we load hogs in a biosecure way. There's no efficiencies there, right? So we're doing it for a reason. And so I think keeping it simple, making it really simple for understand, but then helping people connect with that why behind why we're doing these processes. Everybody in our industry understands that PRRS is bad. It's bad for the pigs. It's bad for the health of the pigs. It can have severe impacts on those pigs, causing disease, clinical signs. We end up treating more pigs with antibiotics, and it's hard on the people, right? Everybody in this industry is in it because we enjoy caring for animals. We enjoy that place of in the supply chain of raising these animals to go into the food supply, and so we all understand that PRRS is bad. Help people connect why I'm asking you, or why am I showering in, right? Why am I loading pigs in a certain way? Why am I loading trailers why am I cleaning trailers and disinfecting trailers? And I'm adding complexity and I'm adding time to our processes. Help them connect that why to keeping disease out of our barns, right? Hey, we're asking you to do this, and we're increasing the complexity of your day because it's better for the pigs. A lot of the times we give a biosecurity SOP, we tell people to follow it, but we don't help them connect with this is why, right? And so many now, my generation, the younger generation, we understand and appreciate the why behind why we're asking people to do things. So I think those are the big, outside of one, quote unquote silver bullet for biosecurity, I don't think there is probably that for PRRS. It's a lot of the, how many layers can I add that are simple, that are going to reduce my risk, that I believe I or the people I work with can do every single day, that helps them understand this is going to help us be effective in keeping PRRS out of our farm.
Hey, Nick, thanks so much for all the information. This was really informative. I could ask you like 1,000 questions, but I won't. I won't keep us any longer and keep you any longer from customers. But it was great to talk about PRRS, and it's such a challenge this season. I mean, I've heard so much about PRRS at this show that it is getting worse. It is changing.
Yeah, it is, and it seems like you said, it's very challenging. It's a hard virus to deal with. The fact it's been in our industry for almost 40 years. Is frustrating, right? And I think what's unique about our team, and what I really appreciate about our team, we've mentioned it a couple times. Have a health team in your corner working with you. Have a really good veterinary team in your corner working with you. But what I like about our team at Pharmgate is we've got a lot of practical experience. We've got a team that's been in barns, that's worked through these challenges at the slat level. And so if there's ever any way we can help you, whether that's product specific or not, we're really passionate in our role in just helping support swine producers, swine veterinarians. So I would encourage anybody that it is frustrating. There are challenges with it, but surround yourself with as good a team as you possibly can. So
fantastic, very good. Well, thank you again, Nick. I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. So
this is Sarah Mikesell with the Pig Site.